Hey, welcome into Restaurants in Pop Culture presented by Squared 3-2. I'm excited, man. This is going to be one hell of a show. I'm Jensen Cummings, co-host Christopher Bennett, aka 3-2. This is episode 1. It's big time. This is the premiere. Number one. What are we going to be talking about today? So in RIP001, we're talking about The Bear, review of season 1, and we're going to talk about the premiere of season 2 as well as it comes out tomorrow. So today, Wednesday, tomorrow, Thursday, June 22nd, 2023, The Bear season 2 is coming out. We're going to rate this for you. We're going to talk about scenes and break down things we loved about the show, things we didn't like about the show, things we're hoping for season 2. We're going to be on weekly here. We're going to be talking about everything. We're going to be giving rankings, reviews, commentary on everything from restaurants and food and film, TV, pop culture, entertainment, just to give that banter, that inside perspective of what restaurant people are really living. Because, Chris, half the time the heroes we see in these movies, they don't represent us, right? They're
right. Absolutely.
Shit, that was dangerously spot on.
Yeah.
And we need to go to therapy.
We're gonna be talking all the shit.
Yeah, we're gonna go off and appreciate. We're also going to hold on. I'm gonna crack this. This is my first product placement attempt, people. Okay, Squared. Hear that pop? This is my.
I cracked mine open already. It's weird. Yeah, I got mine too. The grapefruit.
It's the first time you had it, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thanks to my boy Ted Whitney, who's head of sales with Squared, and this is. Chris, this is pre-launch, pre-premiere. They're doing their first production run next week of, I think, 4 flavors: grape, orange, grapefruit, pink lemonade. So we got to try them first. Really cool product. It's hemp Delta 9, which I don't even know what the hell that means.
That sounds like some sort of marijuana or hemp military group.
Yeah, exactly. This is the Elite Forces. So
right.
Ted Whitney, and a lot of people who are in the craft beer world, restaurant world, especially in Colorado, probably know Ted. He was a longtime head of sales of Avery Brewing Company. So it was really cool to reconnect with him. He was really stoked on the idea of you and I getting together, doing the show, give us an opportunity to put this out there. And I'm hoping to sell a lot of Squared with these guys and be able to put out some fire content, And also, when you and I were talking, one of the first things I had is like, an alcohol sponsor would be really cool for this thing. You don't drink, and I don't even drink anymore, right? And so it's like there's some NA beverage opportunities for us to promote because we need a little mental health. We need a little support of this industry. I think the Bear highlighted that. So really cool partnership there for sure. So, all right. I want to start off by showing everybody the official trailer of season 2. I want to set the tone a little bit for people of what's coming, and then we'll get into this a little bit. Plus, we're going to premiere a song by 3-2 here in a second as well. But let's check out this. Official trailer for season 2 coming June 22nd.
This is coming from a place of wanting to start fresh and clean.
This is going to be a destination spot.
We drafted a quick term sheet.
We need more money.
Will you turn that thing off, please? How's that not making you insane?
I don't mind it. It's a facelift, it's not a gut.
Bear, it is a facelift and a gut.
It's gonna take 6 months to open.
6 months?
That's being...
What, confident?
Cocky. Crazy.
Still thinking chaos menu?
Yeah, chaos menu, but thoughtful.
Ugh, gross.
We need like a reset. I'm trying to start from a place of positivity.
Clock is ticking.
We're gonna be sending you to culinary school.
A hell of a lot of siblings in here. Don't look them in the eyes.
Ideally, we need 5 days on.
Yeah, I just can't do Fridays or Saturdays.
When can I talk to the chef?
You are.
Oh.
Oh, don't freak out and go calling for mom. Mom, I'm gonna call mom. Mom. She can't hear you.
That's my love.
I'm the supervisor.
Supervisor what?
I need a chance, a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance, a word, a sixth.
got this, baby.
Yes, chef.
So how's your life been, Brazado?
Opening a restaurant. Gotta go hard every day. Gotta control the zone.
I love the name.
You don't remember the name.
Of course I remember the name.
We didn't even tell anybody
You
the name.
100% told me the name.
How could you remember the name? Your shirt says original birth.
Yeah, it's a printing mistake. Collector's item.
Collector's item. That's what we got. I mean, right off the bat, all kinds of emotions. There's all kinds of stuff with the sounds and sights and smells of opening a new restaurant.
Yeah.
Demo.
The stress,
man. The Bear did a good job of creating friction, right?
Yeah.
There's tension
Absolutely.
throughout everything. So, all right. Well, let's start there a little bit. What do you hope for season 2? What do you really want to make sure that they nail? What do you want to make sure that they don't slip into? Because season 2 can be opening the second restaurant, where the first restaurant was fire, killed. Right. You take that momentum and you stuff it into a shitbox of a second location, and it sucks the life out of location 1. That happens in a show like this. What are you hoping for season 2?
I think that one thing that I'm looking forward to is them bringing part of like what I like about the dynamic is, and a lot of chef related fiction is based upon like the duality between like common food and like pedestrian or street food and regular people food, so to speak, and fine dining food. And you have fine dining cooks and you have like regular cooks, and like the kind of dynamic between those. And I think that plays into a little bit. So I think that in season 1, we got a little bit of one version where you have fine dining cooks into a regular cook realm and dealing with people who are resenting them for that. And now you're going into the opposite in season 2, where you've got the people who are regular cooks going into the technique driven like fine dining realm and trying to learn that and having their own set of struggles, the way that like Sydney and Carmen were having struggles with kind of reeling themselves in for the common food, like the regular food.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to that dynamic and like seeing how those characters play into that and deal with that, because they're out of their realm this time.
Yep. I hope for season 2 that they intersect the storylines of what happens outside the restaurant with what happens inside the restaurant a little better. Like it's the one thing I have as far as an overarching critique of season 1, which we're going to give our rankings of season 1, our review of season 1 here in a second, but just setting the tone for season 2 is what happened inside the restaurant, the dynamics at play, and all of the tropes of restaurants and cooking and family and drama and drug, sex, and rock and roll, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The elite, like the best I've seen from any type of entertainment when it comes to the food side, anything scripted. But every time they left the restaurant, I was like, why are we at this birthday party? Like, why are these dudes fighting on the street and we're trying to bribe them with sandwiches? Like, get back in the restaurant. That's where the stuff was going. The restaurant itself, the original Beef, which is Mr. Beef, the actual location, shout out to them, they've been there for 30-something years, was the main character of that show. Carmy was second. The actual restaurant was the main character. That to me was one of the more interesting things. And there's lots of little
I do think though that, counter to your point, I think that it made sense the way that it was sometimes random offside events or random spots outside of the restaurant, because that is restaurant life. For example,
what are we doing at this
where we were at the restaurant that we worked at, Row 14, we were right across from the convention center, and every once in a while, like during Comic-Con or something crazy goes on outside. And so it has nothing to do with what's going on in the restaurant or anything that we have going on, but you step outside and you're like, whoa, this is random stuff that's just like part of my day now, that isn't normally part of my day and isn't part of my story whatsoever, but it's happening right now.
Oh, all right, fine. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. The total randomness of what happens outside the restaurant with the controlled chaos inside. I can see the duality, the dichotomy of that, how that's in juxtaposition to itself.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to use as many big words as possible, huh?
Yeah.
In this one, the lyrical genius over here that is 3-2. All right. We're going to rate just in a second. We're going to rate our thoughts on season 1. We're going to break down a lot of our favorite scenes, favorite characters, best and worst. But first, I wanted to get into this. Man, when I heard this song that you put together, which where can people, before they even listen to this, where can they listen to the whole song? Because
so it's about to be on Spotify, but it's not yet.
Yes. So
I'm going to be working on a music video and stuff. So I wanted to make sure that I put it all together, put it all out at once. So this is kind of like
this is the teaser. I love this. We have like world premiere stuff left and right going on right here. So all right, let's listen to a little In the Kitchen.
For your soul, and I got the proper recipe. Don't ask me where I've been, cause I'm on a different mission. Play your own position while I'm talking with precision. Cause y'all, I'm in the kitchen, about to give y'all the best of me. Food for your soul, and I got the proper recipe. Don't ask me where I've been, cause I'm on a different mission. Play your own position while I'm talking with precision. I be chefing in the kitchen now.
Come on.
Yeah, baby.
That's exactly what we need in the kitchen. So everybody make sure, keep an eye out. Check out MC32. What's your Instagram handle? That's probably the best
Instagram
place.
Is at MC spelled out EMCEE, the number 3, and then TWO.
Yeah. All right, check that out. When do you think that's gonna drop?
Within the next couple months, probably. I'll send out snippets and stuff. I might do the audio first because the video will take a while. But yeah, it's coming.
All right, people, let's keep some pressure on MC32 here. Make sure that In the Kitchen comes out. And yeah, at the very beginning of the song, you sample the bear. So this was just like perfect.
Yeah.
When you and I started talking about this, we're like, let's launch with a review of the bear. And you're like, I got the track. This is the record. Oh, I love it. And it's not even out yet. This is great. Season 1 or episode 1, we're already all kinds of world premieres of this. Exclusives are dropping. All right, let's do this. I want us to drop our rating out of 10 for The Bear season 1. Then we're going to talk about this. And just so there's no influence either way, we're going to do this on a 3 count. So give me your out of 10 ranking in 3, 2, 1.
9.3.
Oh, 9.3. Yeah. Wow, I went 8.2 on my ranking. All right, well, I want to hear from you. 9.3 is that's stratosphere. That's instantly best the best, instant living legend. So give me the high level before we get into some of the nitty gritty. High level, why did it deserve a 9.3 from 3.2?
Because based on other forms of media that I've seen chef related, this seemed to be the most well-rounded in terms of giving us a view of what it's like really, like from the level of stress, having elements of the fine dining, but also having elements of just like people eating regular people food, and how there's like that's a huge food. Yeah, regular people food, like the people that
a bunch of top ramen eating motherfuckers out here.
Like, you know, the place that you go to when you want something on your way to work or when you're on your lunch break and you don't want to drop $60 or whatever, but you also still want it done well. And so like there's that, and just like because I feel like that's a common theme also, is just the fact that everything boils down to what tastes good. When you think about every single kitchen movie, it's like you usually have the fine dining chef, and then what happens is eventually they make their way back to just making good food.
Yeah.
And so they start off with fine dining and technique driven and all that, but then eventually when they go and reach into their soul and go to like what makes them happy, it always ends up boiling down to just regular good food. And so I think that like the fact that they touched on that, but also touched on a lot of, because you usually either get one or the other. Like you get all the tension, but you don't get any of the happy things or the good things, or you get all the like, yeah, exactly. Or you get all the rigid fine dining, like technique driven stuff, and you don't get into the actual interpersonal relationships that happen within a kitchen, within a line. And so I felt like because it ran that gamut, it's one of the first times where I felt like it did it in a realistic manner and more complete than I've seen so far. So to me, that's why it's so high, because comparatively to everything else that we've seen up to this point, it seems to be the most complete picture.
So here's what I would say is I basically agree with everything that you just said, except the scale. So here's the interesting thing. I think that there's been so much bad restaurant, food, chef content, scripted content out there that our bar is fucking low, too low.
That makes sense.
So that for me was like, if you're in the 9s, you're Godfather space, right? When it comes to that. And I think to your point, when you think about just purely kind of food content, it makes a lot of sense. For me, I want us to elevate and have a higher expectations of the heroes and villains that we create and have been ourselves in this industry, that they are on par with The Godfather, right?
Okay.
Will that happen? Probably not. No.
Right.
But should we aspire to that? Yes. So what I will say is an 8.2 is the highest score I would give any scripted restaurant, chef, food, beverage show, period. So nobody else has made it even to an 8. So we're on the same page. Like the Bear is now the benchmark.
Agreed.
So the benchmark needs to be set at a place where there's a lot of things that the Bear can and should and hopefully will do better into the future as its ability to tell this compelling story for people in restaurants. And I think it can go up from there. But that was also for me. I'm like, what if season 2 is better? Is it a 9.6? And The Godfather 9.8. Like, I don't think that Reservoir Dogs or Apocalypse Now are like 9.8s. They're like 9.6s. So so we'll also see if our ability to rate and rank, I don't know. We're just we're grasping.
We're rookies at this, people.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, high level. I want to do a couple more things. Shout out to Christopher Storer, the creator behind this, the creative force behind a lot of this. Him and his team. I thought for sure when I saw this, I was like, whoever made this worked a long time in restaurants and is dealing with some shit. And the fact that he didn't was like, you must just have a really good ability to understand human stories and the attention to detail, and probably listening to people like Maddie Matheson, who we saw in that clip, who did some of the culinary advisement and consulting and development stuff. Really listen to those creatives because it was real. It absolutely was real. So I want to give a shout out there for sure. Now,
for sure.
Chef. Yes, Chef. Thank you, Chef. Chef. Did you love how now everybody says chef like it's their job? Was it
that was one thing I wasn't
out on chef, the term?
That was the one thing I wasn't the most stoked on.
It was too much, man. It was too much.
It was too much. And granted, I've never worked in a restaurant of that caliber before, so I don't know the dynamic necessarily in that regard. But as far as I'm concerned, chef has been kind of like a term of an earned term of accomplishment in addition to just sort of like the acknowledgement of the hierarchy, right? And so when you have everybody at every level being called chef, it kind of, I feel like at that point, if you're calling everybody chef, you might as well just call everybody by their first names.
Yeah, right.
Because most places that I've worked at where you have that mutual level of respect with everybody, instead of calling everybody chef, everybody's just on a first name basis with everybody.
I thought it was a little bit like at a point making fun of the fact that we use the term chef so much, because we do use it a lot in restaurants. There is a lot of, sometimes it's a job title. Sometimes it's a term of respect and acknowledgement. Other times it's a term of functionality and operations. A yes chef is actually the same as heard. It is a processing of what's happening with a set of orders or a table or a dish, whatever it might be. So we do use it very interchangeable in restaurants in a lot of different ways.
Right.
So at a certain point, I was like, are they just busting their balls about it? They're like, these guys, why do they say chef about everything? So let's take it to the nth degree and literally have the word
Yeah.
chef. Like this is like some drinking game. Every time they say chef, oh, you got a drink. There you go. It's that kind of level. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
We get it.
I'll tell you there.
We get it. There were those transformational moments, right, where it got used to a point where, and let's get into some characters. I want to talk about characters, and I'm going to start here. I mentioned the original Beef being the main character. One of my favorite characters in all of this was Tina, and I'm going to make sure and get Tina's name. The actor who played Tina, Lisa Colon Zayas, was my most interesting character because she came from this place where don't touch my stuff. This is my area. This is my station. A lot of us have dealt with people in restaurants like that, where I love that you own something, but they're also so territorial that that they make it a little hard to kind of work around them. You know, they're throwing elbows and stuff where you're trying to do the dance on the line, things like that. Tina had that bravado, that little bit of machismo, like that kind of thing going on. Also was very transformational, who when she said chef and called somebody chef, I took notice because it wasn't obligatory. So I like that about Tina. I also thought that the relationship between Tina and Sydney was one of the most important. Being two women and two women of color in a kitchen, I think it can't be overlooked. And the fact that there was so much tension and aggression between them that eventually softened and turned into like a team dynamic, I thought was interesting too. So Tina, when Tina said chef, I listened because it just became background noise at a certain point and no longer had any validity, the term chef, until Tina said that a few episodes on, right? So I thought that was interesting. Start there. Favorite character, best character. Who are you thinking about when you think about some of the characters that you really resonated with?
So probably I would say Tina, but I hated the character, but I loved how she portrayed the character.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is having been in the position where you're a new chef walking into a restaurant where you're replacing somebody and the rest of the team is still there, and they have their whole idea of how things should be based on how the last chef ran things and all that, and trying to deal with guiding them in new ways while dealing with them pushing back because it's not how they've done things. Like I've dealt with that and I hated that. And so like watching how well she did, how she portrayed that, it really hit me. But also because there's two types of know-it-alls in a kitchen.
Ooh,
there's
tell.
There's the book smart culinary student. I earned my way here, and so I know the technical stuff. So Sydney. I know better, Sydney. And then you have the School of Hard Knocks. I know everything my way because I learned it from being here and grinding it out. And so my way, your way doesn't make it better. My way is better because I learned it organically.
That's why the two of them, I thought their relationship.
And I also felt like there was a bit of that between Carmen and his cousin.
Oh, Richie, man, Richie,
because Richie's like the farthest version of that, like on the spectrum of just like, you don't know what you're talking about. You went to all these fancy places. We've been doing this for years. And Tina is like,
I'm street and you're Ivy. Like that's
exactly. So it's sort of like the two, Richie and Tina versus Carmen and Sydney, even though Carmen and Sydney have their own dynamic that they're still working through at the same time. But it's also like the School of Hard Knocks versus the traditionally trained, technique-driven people at the and
that's exactly what you said about season 2. You're hoping to see now maybe the inverse of that relationship and dynamic, and how the other side of that equation of kind of hard knocks, street, and regular food to high-end fine dining, formal training type scenario, I think makes a lot of sense. So I like all of that. I think I'm into that. Now on the flip side, here was what was interesting. I don't know. Let's go worst characters, whatever the hell that means. I don't know if it was Ayo Edebiri just doing such a great job, but I did not like Sydney. in this way that I thought I would, because Sydney represents more of my trajectory than a lot of the other characters in that show. And I think she just maybe did such a great job as an actress of portraying this person who's kind of cold, right? Kind of coming into this space, trying to puff her chest a little bit, but also still be kind of controlled and reserved in this way, when there's so much, everybody else is bombastic and everybody else is so hot and emotional, that she wasn't. It makes sense that you need somebody like that, because I found myself caring much more about the other characters than I did about Sydney, which is why when the drama happened and her leaving at the end, it was hard for me to get there, because I wasn't spending episode after episode as much caring what was happening to Sydney as much as I cared how Sydney was impacting the other characters. So I was very, very torn with that. And I think maybe that was the point of that character. So I'm interested in season 2, how they really developed Sydney, because Sydney was the backstop to making sure that Carmy and Tina and Marcus and Sweeps and Ibrahim, everybody developed as characters themselves. So I want to see where they take Sydney. I think it's going to be, and where Io takes Sydney as well.
I think that part of what makes Sydney's portrayal good is that, for one thing, I think that there's a duality between like her, because her humanity shows in her need to be accepted by Carmy.
Yeah.
But it cuts there because she doesn't feel like she's needing to be accepted by anybody else but him. So and when you think about what the usual culinary upbringing is, especially if she's worked in fine dining, is like having to have your thick skin and not show emotion. And so that's part of like the fine dining thing, is not showing your emotion and like managing your, like keeping it all suppressed. Meanwhile, on the other hand, with that crew, they're all about wearing their emotions on their sleeve. If I'm mad at you, you're going to know about it from the moment I walk in the door. If I don't like you, I don't like you, and you're going to know about it and all that stuff.
River North Chicago, man.
Right. And so like you have Sydney, who's basically been training herself to not be like that. And the only time that she's really exposed to her emotions is when she's seeking validation in her ideas and things like that from Carmen. And so I feel like that, for me, when she did have that breakdown at the end and quit, it made sense, because that was like her getting that breaking point where she'd been cold, and then finally she found that needle or that straw that broke the camel's back. And it was like, and she didn't, even the way that she broke down is on brand with her personality in the show. Versus like she didn't go out yelling like Tina would have. She didn't cuss everybody out or anything like that. She just like
matter of fact.
Yeah, exactly. Like she sat there and you could see her collecting herself, collecting her emotions, calculating whether she was going to leave or not, and then just being like, you know what, fuck it, and then putting her shoes on and then saying what she had to say to Bear, because he was the one that impacted her the most in terms of how she felt. But everything else, she was just like, I'm done. And then it was such a calculated breaking point,
right?
Versus how the rest of them expose how they would do it or whatever. So
even when she finally flew off the handle, she didn't actually fly off the handle in the way that everyone else did. Yep, it makes sense to me. Marcus is the person that I thought they did him dirty, because Marcus was so passionate and deeply wanted to learn. Is the kind of person that I know you would too, would take under our wing and be like, let's learn, your drive for it. But this was something that they did in The Bear, where I felt like it was almost like one of those limited series runs, because they hit every trope. They were pushing so hard again and again to try and name drop and try and technique drop and try and be everything all the time when it comes to what those restaurant things are, that I was like, okay, you're pushing so hard, you've run your course. The fact that Marcus all of a sudden is doing fermentation and making fruit leather and doing Noma, stuff for desserts, I just thought was so too far-fetched for what you're trying to do in this small place. And Carmy kind of reels him back in a couple times, but it just felt like they could have taken that character who deeply wants to learn and progress when so many others are resistant, and he was all in, and not take him to this place where it's like, what are we doing over here? Where they have to go, okay, wait, makes no sense what you're doing. You've gone off the reservation, because Sydney and Carmy were going off the reservation doing oxtail risotto and langoustine and picatas when spaghetti didn't make sense, but somehow all of those other dishes made sense. So I think Marcus, I wish they would have taken him in a place where everything that he learned turned into something that didn't fall off a cliff by design with the way they had his arc go. So that's what I thought about Marcus.
As far as Marcus, for me, I think that his character pissed me off a lot from an experience standpoint, just of like, you think about the character that has a bunch of stuff to do, like a cook that you've had or your prep cook or whatever, and every time you look, they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and time is winding down until service, and you're like, you got it? And they're like, yeah, I got it. I'm just finishing up, and then like service starts or you're 5 minutes to, and you realize that they haven't done any of it, and so like. The one thing that made it kind of unrealistic to me is the fact that he got away with it for so long of just like doing all. I'm like, where are you finding all this extra time where you can experiment on
up
pastry
like
stuff?
Lab like plastic wrapping. What is going on over there?
Yeah. And so like the fact that never got checked was interesting to me, but I do think that it could be made interesting in season 2. Because a lot of times when you think that you can delve into something, you maybe underestimate how challenging it is. And so sometimes you think, oh, I'm going to get into all of this and do these different techniques and all that stuff. And you think that it's going to be easier because you read it or you saw a video on it or whatever. Yeah. But then you're actually inserted into that environment with the culinary school situation and all that. And maybe you're realizing there's so much more to it that you never anticipated. And then you're like, maybe I have to revert back to what I was doing that was easier to me, that I was better at. Or you decide, actually, I'm going to push through and, make myself better through the adversity of learning all this new stuff. So it could be a thing where either they're taking all this positive or all his mishaps and missteps and using it as motivation for him to better himself in season 2 when he's in that climate. Or it could be a thing of deep regret where he's like, I thought I wanted this. Come to find out I don't. Let me just stick to like the donuts and the cake and the stuff that we're doing that's basic.
Yeah. Yeah. They hung him out to dry a little bit, potentially.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they do with that in season 2. All right. I want to throw some of my thoughts on food stuff and some of the Easter eggs thoughts. I'm just going to freestyle real quick, and then I want you to jump in as we kind of wrap this down. So when I thought about the food side of this, again, Maddie Matheson, shout out there. Chicago-style Italian beef is roasted beef. So even though the fact that I loved the searing of that and the braising, and like I thought they did a great job with the cinematography of capturing those sounds and those scents and everything that come from braising a beautiful piece of meat, the fact that they were braising meat at all made no sense to me, because that's a roasted beef and then it's sliced thin and then they simmer it in the broth and all that. So that I had a little bit of problem with that. The walk-in bothered me all the time. I was like, what is going on in that walk-in? Sometimes it was empty, sometimes like what was going on in there? And then veal stock on the top shelf, I about lost my shit. I was like, you did that on purpose just to give every chef out there anxiety as they've seen somebody put a 5-gallon on the top shelf, and that shit always ends up all over the floor. So that gave me some anxiety there. A couple nuggets that I liked about it, little Easter eggs. I mean, the meme-ified for life, the drinking out of the deli on the turned over milk crate in the alley, that was one of the most powerful things, and nothing had to be said in that scene. I don't remember what they talked about in that scene. I just remember going, man, sitting there with the deli. The only other use of the deli could have been turning it into a speaker amplifier. Right. With somebody's phone in it. Those are the 2 uses for delis. 100. Lighting the cigarette off the burner. Man, I've had chefs doing that. Like, fuck out of the kitchen. Lighting the cigarette on the burner. There were little stuff. The Malort sign. Anybody from Chicago, man, they love their Malort. That is like a Fernet type industry, Jameson type industry drink. So I saw the Malort sign. I see you there looking at that. The 773 area code tattoo that Carmy has. That was a nice little shout out to Chicago. And the one thing though, the one bit of PTSD that I wanted the printer sound. The OG printer sound wasn't there, and I was expecting it because it's such an iconic thing. Those were some of the food things and the Easter egg nuggets that I took away from the show. What are some of yours that you want to share?
One of the things that struck me is at the very beginning when somebody takes and starts using his knife. When he was like, and he's trying to do his prep work with house knives, and they're super dull, and he's like going over from knife to knife, and oh man, I was like, I don't know how he's not losing his shit just off of this.
Well, you're left-handed too, so you got custom knives.
Yeah. And so like, I can't think of a single chef that's gonna be cool with other people just grabbing their knives without asking or anything. So that one was huge for me. I'm on low key happy that they didn't bring in the printer sound, because episode 7, when everything hits the fan, like I think that because I was watching that episode and I remember starting to get PTSD and like getting shortness of breath, and I was like, oh man, because we've all been in that situation where everything starts happening all at once and it's right before service starts. And I think that if I would have heard a ticket machine going off in the traditional sound,
it'd have been too much.
I would have had to pause it and walk away for a bit.
3-2 is over there, fetal position in the corner.
Legit.
I can't. Oh yeah, those tickets being you and I, we're 6'2", 6'3", like you hold up tickets that are taller than you. That's no joke.
Yeah.
That part of it's no joke.
And also just the stress of having an online system and an online ordering system, because to me that really struck me after working in a couple places where we did that, especially when you started off not doing it and then you implemented it, and realizing that, like, especially if you leave the pre-ordering on or you don't set the times properly for when people can start ordering, and you see stuff piling up before you even start, that's a different kind of stress, because when there's guests coming into the restaurant, if you're in the weeds, you have servers that can control the flow. The hostess control the flow. You can give them an appetizer or a drink.
Well enough, but they can.
Right. Exactly. You can send out drinks or drink cards or discount cards or whatever to quell the stress or whatever until you can get their food out to them. But online orders, they're just anonymous people expecting their food, and all they know is what time they pressed send and what time the app tells them that they should be expecting their food. And so like when you get all these tickets that come in, and now you've got to figure out how to do all that, plus you have a line at the door, like it's just instant mayhem. And so like that was that caught me so much. And then the sabotage.
Yeah.
With the turning the burner down or turning the burner up and then stepping away and all that, like
made me clench my teeth. Straight up.
And one of the things that's killer, and it's like sometimes I don't even think people do it on purpose, but it's one of the number one ways that I've witnessed sabotage, intentional or unintentional, is when you've got something in the oven, the timer goes off, and somebody turns off the timer and doesn't say anything. You touch the timer, you own it, right?
If you turn off the timer, either you let it go, or if you turn it off, that product is now on you. I knew you were going to say that. That's 100%. Yeah, that sabotage. Man, we've seen that, and that's just the worst. It's hard enough. It's hard enough without that sabotage. Yeah, this is a good show.
One comedic thing that I saw, one comedic thing that I saw that just made me be like, "What? How did that happen?" Is when they start finding the money in the cans and they're all opening up the cans. When Sydney shows up and you see them all digging through, you see a big splatter of tomato sauce on the wall, and it's like 20 feet behind them on the wall by the clock. And I'm like, how feverishly were you opening cans that a huge splatter of tomatoes on the wall 20 feet behind you? Like, how did that even? But, and I understand that that's purely for visual effect and all that stuff. So I gave it a pass.
Blood
like,
scenes,
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, come on, that arc was just ridiculous. All of that coming to a head of like we found what was it, 180, 300, whatever $1,000 from Cicero in in cans. Like, come on, bury it in the wall or the mattress or the floorboards like a good gangster. Let's go and be done.
And one other thing is one of the scenes that made me like angry from another like personal standpoint was the scene where the flashback where he's in the restaurant and the chef is just saying evil things in his ear, and he's like got to keep his composure. He's plating the food, and he was very respectful to his other chef, to the cook that comes up and she messed up the sauce, right? And he just says, go fix it, but then the chef comes out from the back and just starts whispering evil stuff in his ear. And
I like Joel McHale, and I thought that was just a sad ass character.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
And I've been there, especially like working in Michelin restaurants, and you have chefs that just like they take sport in being cruel and seeing if they can break people. And I remember working at one restaurant in particular, we had an open kitchen, and this wasn't even a Michelin restaurant, but this was just like more casual fine. And the chef would make mistakes on the line with calling out tickets. He would miscall your counts. And then when he would call up for things to be plated and you would be 2 steaks short or 3 veal short because he didn't call them to you. And we had an open kitchen with like a chef's table right up against the line, and he would pull you in front of the line and just start cussing you out in front of the guests. And so like when I saw that, I was just, I felt that. Yeah. I felt that.
Oh man. All right, season 2. We have high hopes for you starting tomorrow, June 22nd. It's dropping because season 1 got us fired up, obviously. So we're going to be next week. Next week, I want to review episode 1, and this was a deep dive into the Bear because I think it's such an impactful show. It's dropping tomorrow, but we'll spend a little bit of time on multiple things next week. So I want to go over the Bear episode 1. I think it's called Beef. And even though all the episodes are dropping tomorrow, we'll go one at a time. So we might end up a little bit behind everybody, but we'll make sure that we get the entire season rated and give you some of our commentary as we go. We're also going to be doing probably multiple other shows or things that are happening right now in entertainment, pop culture around restaurants, past films. So I want to go back. I want to let people learn a little bit about us through the lens of our movies. So I was thinking next week, you and I need to give people our top 3 scripted chef restaurant movies. Top 3, top 5. What do you think? How many you want to do?
Let's do. There hasn't been a whole lot, so let's go top 3.
Top 3. Otherwise, we're gonna have the exact same list, just in kind of different order. So, top 3 next week. We're going to give you our top 3 of all time chef, restaurant, food, movies, and TV stuff is okay as well. Just our best, and we're going to let's just say that we both said that the Bear is number 1. So we're going to give you our 3 besides the Bear, so that we have a little bit of polarity here as far as the things that we're recommending. And I'm hoping some people haven't seen or heard of a couple of things we're talking about, because there are some interesting obscure stuff that has come out for sure. So we're going to share that with you. We're probably going to do some rankings of our favorite fictional chefs of all time, maybe in a future episode. So we'll mix it up a little bit and give you guys some reviews, some commentary. And what do I want in the comments? I want people to rank The Bear season 1. Give us your out of a 10 ranking. If you're watching this, listening to this, give us your ranking, and put us on blast. 8.2, not even close, not high enough. 9.3, way too high. What the hell are you thinking? Feel free to give us a little bit of banter as well. We're going to feed off of it, and we want to know what everyone thinks about how we're represented in media, in Hollywood, and how we can continue to evolve the storylines that are restaurants. That's it. 3-2. Good first episode, huh?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'm excited.
That's it, everybody.